I'd like to call the Village Board meeting to order. If you would stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everyone, and welcome to everyone watching at home tonight. Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Trustee Carter?
Present.
Trustee Mariscal?
Present.
Trustee Kazan?
Present.
Trustee Gett?
Present.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Present.
Trustee DeVore?
Present.
Okay, everyone here. Good to see everyone. Okay, next is item 4, approval of the minutes from the Board of Trustees meeting on August 20th, 2019. I'd ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes for August 20th.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Madam Clerk, any correspondence?
No correspondence?
Okay, on to announcements. Just one tonight, reminder of the trunk or treat on October 26th. We have another big Halloween event planned for families. We had several hundred kids here last year. We hope to have another good Halloween party, so keep that on your calendars. The neighborhood meetings have started. We had our first last Thursday night. It was pretty well attended. There will be 2 more at the Herman's Building on Galena Road, and we really want to get talk to the neighbors down there because of the work coming up on Galena Road and Route 29, and then there will also be another meeting at the Peoria Heights Library. More information is on the website. Okay, so on to presentations. Hugh Higgins, I saw you walk in. Would you want to give a presentation on the Taste of the Heights, please?
Hi, Hugh Higgins, Hearth Restaurant, Chair of the Chamber of Commerce for Taste of the Heights. So, with your blessing permission, we finally did it. So there were 10,200 people interested in coming to a Taste of the Heights. Interested, but actually really coming, you never know. But we ran out of wristbands right at 4,000, so we know we did a little bit more than that. It was a group effort by so many areas of the Heights. It was just Peoria Heights brick and mortar independent restaurant owners that were participating. The Peoria Heights Kiwanis was our setup crew for the event. The help from the village and Public Works was just amazing. They were just terrific. I think the learnings that they had from the art fair in May really gave us tremendous dividends for making this event successful for us and working with the travel control there. Again, so many people came. The restaurateurs, to a person, everyone up and down in this, said they had one of the biggest nights inside their restaurant they ever had, in addition to this wonderful business out on the street. I think Chief will provide testimony. We had no incidents. We had a great crowd. So that was also really, really good. The big learnings on this for us, being a first-time event of doing this, is how can we do it better? And certainly if we have your blessing for next year to do it again, we will have 3 times the number of token selling stations than we did this year. The lines for people to buy tokens was extremely long. Some people were waiting 40, 45 minutes just to buy a token, and then they had to go get in line to buy food. So that was tedious for folks, but for the most part, everybody was really patient, really kind. We had, some live entertainment that was very, very nice to pass that time for folks. We had a terrific cleanup crew. Again, we embraced a local organization, Teens for Life, and there were two nuns were in their habits with some parents and teenagers, and we gave them gloves to pick up trash, and they got all the trash out, and they picked up everything. Although, spoons, straws, fork, they picked everything up. When people came back to the Heights the very next morning, there was nothing on the street. You couldn't tell. We had 4,000 people having a wonderful time up here. So it was, by our impressions and by the words that we hear on the street, it was an extremely successful event. The The Chamber of Commerce was looking at this very first year to be a break-even proposition for us, but it turned out better than that. We did turn a profit this year in our very first year, so far so good. Hopefully we can do it again next year, maybe do it a little bigger, and definitely do it a little better.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Well, the weather was perfect for you, that's for darn.
We got lucky. It was scary.
Up the street was Mr. Berkman's office, and I looked out and I saw the line, and I changed my mind about going and buying anything.
Yeah. I'm sure you weren't alone.
I just went ahead and gave business to save a lot, so.
Yeah.
Will you consider next year selling those coins ahead of time?
Yeah, that was a suggestion as well. What we would need to have is a place to do that. So if we have the good fortune of still having an employee for a Chamber of Commerce, if they would still have a desk up here, that would be wonderful. That's a place we could do some in advance. There's the possibility of turning that over to the restaurateurs. Even though I trust everyone, it's nicer to have fewer hands touching money and to be able to keep track of that. But if you give them a specific amount and you keep track of what you give them, then there are tracking mechanisms out there to be had. But having roaming persons with like nail aprons and packets of little Ziploc bags of $20 worth of tokens in your pocket, and they can exchange money, so you don't even have to go through a line. Having ticket stations in the parking lot area before people even come into the event, just trying to give them as many opportunities to exchange that money in advance would be certainly in everybody's best interest. I also need to talk to the restaurateurs to make sure they're better staffed for the event, because if you only have 2 people out there exchanging tokens for food, the line gets too long. So they had a wonderful time this year. They're very, very happy with it, so we have to turn that into an obligation for them to be better as well.
What about the tokens that people have left over? Can they use those next year? Or are you gonna...
Actually, we did, unlike the Peoria taste, we bought back tokens up until 9 p.m. that night. So people had an opportunity to turn in their tokens and get cash back, but it is the same token that will be used next year for many years to come. That was a major, major expense. We were at $5,000 worth of tokens that we had to purchase for this event. But yeah, they'll definitely be used year after year.
I mean, obviously, I wasn't able to be here, but I heard nothing but great news on it. You had a few that were a little touchy, but you're going to have that.
Right.
It was just explained that, it's a first year, we're going to learn from it and move forward. And one of the things was, I have tokens left over.
Yeah.
Can I use them next year?
Absolutely.
That was a good question.
Yeah. And it was something, we did include that in our advertising, that buy back tokens until 9 p.m. But if you didn't read it, you didn't catch it. So, yeah, definitely same token next year for sure.
Well, I thank everybody that helped out, and because it was a huge success, I think.
We had 50 volunteers between the Chamber of Commerce people and the Sign Up Genius program that we put out for other people, residents in the community. There were a total of 50 volunteers. And those weren't just Chamber people by any means. So these were people from all walks of life. So it was a community effort.
That's great.
Yeah, it was.
One of the other things that came up, Hugh, and obviously you would have to examine this, is the potential of selling these tokens in some of the stores. And we talked about it beforehand too, because it gets people into some of those boutiques as well.
Yeah.
But I know you spoke to the exchange of money, and that's something that needs to be considered, but.
Yeah. And that is something we can definitely facilitate to next year so that people can walk right in. The only thing they may have to do is get an ID check, and off they can run, and give them the opportunity to spend money as quick as they can. That'll be our goal. Bottom line, a lot of expenses, but throughout the course of that day, $43,000 of money changed hands.
That's great.
Yeah, it was pretty big.
Well, thank you, Hugh. You really spearheaded this. I know this was somewhat your idea, and all good events need someone to chair them and to get them started, and I thank you for that, and everyone from the Chamber who worked on this, and also very grateful to all of the village employees who made this work smoothly and kept everyone safe, so thanks. Good
And
luck.
we didn't run out of parking. That was, I forgot to mention, Williams Brothers Construction giving us that big lot back there, and we, combed it off and says, we had more parking than we needed. Unbelievable. How often do we hear that up here?
Yeah.
Never. All
Thank
good.
you, Williams Brothers.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much.
Yep. Okay, next we have a presentation, just a little backstory. As most longtime Heights residents know that about Alfresco Park. Alfresco Park was on the Illinois River in Peoria Heights and used to draw literally thousands of people here throughout the summer, and the Heights owns that property, the village owns that property, as well as Poplar Park, and it hasn't really had any purposeful use for literally decades. I think Alfresco closed maybe in the 40s, if not the late 30s. And so we have a group that has a proposal, and they're here tonight. The KDB group is here to make a presentation, and the sun is shining into my eyes. Greg, I know you're out there somewhere, so please come forward and let's take it away.
Thank you. As you know, it's been a wild ride for this last 12 months with Kim Blickenstaff and myself and what we've trying to accomplish here in Peoria Heights. When Kim came to town, he sat down with the mayor and said, you know, what would you want in Peoria Heights? Well, one of them was the hotel, and so we are actively getting that secured as far as a new hotel operator that will run that for us. And so after that purchase, Kim, being an outdoor lover, bought 15 acres on the hillside right off of Prospect. His vision at that time was to bring inner kids to the woods to learn how to pitch a tent, how to camp outside and be one with nature. So that's always been in Kim's background. And this project that I'll be showing you has that same attitude and feel as far as trying to bring more awareness to a beautiful resource that you have on the Illinois River. Also to encompass the family and kids into learning how to fish on Alfresco Park. So I'll start with this. This has been in our back burner for probably the last 7 months. We've been working on this project. When Pritzker actually announced his $68 million project for that area, it launched me into full bore to get this put together. I hired out the Farnsworth Group to do what you see tonight, along with Shannon as far as the presentation. So this concept has been in the works for a while, but now it's lending itself perfectly to timing. So what you see here is the American Legion post in the background. We had put a new roof on that, painted it, sprucing it up, and actually we're going to be doing a little bit more projects with that. We're going to be putting a fresh coat of paint in all the picnic tables, repainting the shuffleboard and the tic-tac-toe board. But again, we're listening to the community as far as, you know, what you want, and I always keep on hearing, we want to interact with kids, we want the kids to do something. So this is what's going to lend into that aspect. So again, we're realizing the Heights, you have a phenomenal resource in your own back door, but also we're trying to integrate lower Peoria Heights with upper Peoria Heights, and this is going to help bridge that, we think, as far as working together. You can kind of see the corridor here of a ring, what I call a ring road. We're working with each city and then mayor as far as trying to make this a drivable tour. Certain aspects of each town will have something for us to visit. Then you have Peoria Heights as a starting ground. But I just want to kind of show this, that there's a lot of opportunity here. We have triathlons. It's endless of what could possibly happen here. So here is the proposed bicycle trail that Pritzker has awarded the funding to. So you can see where it's going to hook up down here to Peoria, all the way out. Number one here is Alfresco Park, so it's going to go through Alfresco Park and head north. You kind of see the Rock Island Trail here. Rock Island Trail stops right around by Peoria Journal Star. We're looking at, not we, but the city is looking at connecting that down by Edgarville. So that way we can connect all these bicycle trails. The bicycle trail will go across the Illinois River here. From there, I'm not sure what the proposal is as far as what area it's going to connect with. But it's, again, I mean, as you got here tonight, there was like probably 30, 40 runners out here. We've got bicyclists all over. We just want to be able to connect downtown Peoria up to Peoria Heights as far as in the bicycle lane, the bicycle path. Alfresco Park, been unutilized for decades and decades and decades and decades. You have such a beautiful resource here. Our plan is to close this off. We're going to raise this up probably about another 10 feet so it's level to the back green area. And what we're going to do is, you've got the Sancote Aquifer below you. If I punch a hole through that, you only go maybe 8 feet deep, and you're in natural 52 degrees water constantly. What we want to do is open up that natural waterway, create a stream through here, and we want to raise trout for kids to fish, to learn how to fly fish. We're working with Nate Herman, who's a biologist and with fish hatcheries. If anyone knows Duck Creek out in Canton, knows of his work. He's also one of Larry Herman's relatives. They do phenomenal work as far as biologically, as far as growing fish and cultivating that species. So the next picture, which is right across the street, which is Herman's. So our proposal is to have the bicycle path coming off Galena, circle around, come back here and go back out, or they can sit there and pedal around. The stream will start here. We're going to punch through the aquifer, create the stream through here, filter through, go down to a smaller pool, and then from here we'll have waterfalls coming into the larger pond. And in here you can kind of see where the light color, that's the sand, so that'd be a sand beach. Up will be another tier for picnicking, just enjoying the greenery. So it's going to be staircased up. Again, like I said, back here we're going to raise this probably about another 10 to 15 feet. And that will keep the Illinois River from coming in to the Al Fresco Park. Back over here, you can see kayak launching and canoe launching. Spoke to a bushwhacker, and they said from this launch point to the other side of the Spring Bay, or other side to East Peoria, it takes about 25 to 28 minutes kayaking. So you can see that we're trying to bring people to this area that hasn't been utilized for a long, long time. So I'm going to be showing you some other slides as far as how we look at as far as interacting with the highway, with the trail, with the train line. One is creating a bridge up and over the highway, back down over here to Herman's. Herman Survey Company is not going anywhere. They are in talks with us as far as how we can look at developing this piece of property, but I just want to emphasize that they are not going anywhere. They're excited about this. They actually are talking about maybe putting condominiums in here, maybe a brewery of some sort, commercial. So again, we're trying to revitalize the lower part of Peoria Heights. So just again, a kind of a little bit more of a close-up of Al Fresco Park. These are just trees, but you can see kind of the tier that goes up a little higher, the waterfall, the bicycle trails, the trail heading to the kayak and canoe launch area. So this right here is the Herman property where the deer is. We would have an elevator on this side of the highway to take our clients up, over, back down, and get into the park. You can see that we're bypassing the highway, the train, and making it a safe venture for everyone to go to that side of the river. This kind of picture just kind of shows with the water coming in, cascading down to the different ponds. But again, over here is the berm that we're going to be building up to protect it from the Illinois River from coming in. We've looked at it, we've surveyed it, and we know where we need to be for that 100-year flood as far as how high. I have presented this to Senator Kaler, Senator LaHood, Colleen Callahan. She's the Director of Department of Natural Resources, and I've got complete buy-in from all these organizations. Colleen is extremely excited that we're bringing back a part of the Illinois River as far as what it had been used for back in the late 1900s. To a park that could be used for kids to learn how to fly fish. So that's one of Kim's passion, is fly fishing. So he wants to be able to teach kids how to fly fish. So I'm going to take it to the next slide here. So this is the structure, and then I can have Jeff, our landscape architect, can guide a little bit more. Okay. All right. So ground floor. So we're putting up this wall, the full length. So that way we've got a barrier against the railroad tracks. So our kids and pedestrians just can't hop a fence and walk into the train track. So this is a very tall, 10-foot, I think 10 foot, isn't it, the ceiling height on this? Yes. So we're creating a barrier there. So we will have we'll have the fly fishing shop, men and women's restrooms, storage, kayak rental, concession, kind of multi-use. As you can see, this isn't a moneymaker for the KDB group. You know, we're not looking to make money off this. We're looking for Peoria Heights and for the community, for a place for the kids to go to and learn how to fish. So this is kind of the tiered look that we're looking at as far as there at the lake, the pond, as far as green space for picnicking, the canoe launch. This is actually the walkway up and over the highway to get to the other side for parking. We're using natural stone that's already in the river to make these wire baskets. That will also be used to keep pedestrians from going onto the railroad tracks also. Again, some more what Pritzker's putting in as far as, you know, the bicycle lane here, the waterfall. Kids can actually fish right off the back of the El Fresco Park into the Illinois River for fishing. And then we have the fly fishing up on top. Any questions at all before I? Yes?
Is it handicap accessible?
Yes.
Greg, for everyone watching at home, would you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, she had asked if this was handicap accessible, and yes, it is. Any other questions? So this is just kind of an aerial view of what it looks like. El Fresco is right back here. Just kind of giving you a big picture of what we're looking at as far as the integrating of the bicycle trails. So just kind of giving you a high view level of that. Again, just kind of a picture of the bicycle trail. I mean, we also have another great asset. This is the Peoria Waterworks, and right next to this was a great park back in its day. Now it's kind of dilapidated and needs what we feel is kind of attention to kind of bring it back to where it was at one time. So that's definitely on our radar screen as far as, you know, what that would look like, but nothing proposed at this time. Then we come to Poplar Park. Poplar Park has some great natural resources of its own down there. Every time the water floods, it creates a sand barrier around there. And we're looking at, again, going down to San Cody, about 8 feet down, tapping into the water. And we want to make a natural ice skating rink during the wintertime. You've already got the perfect place for this. It's already dished out in there. Wouldn't require any maintenance. We just have to flood it every year. And the depth of that would maybe 6 to 8 inches at the very most. And you'd have a beautiful landscape for ice skating back there, obviously free of charge. So, I mean, it's the park's property. So that's just some of our vision that we have for that, for Poplar Park. Again, this, you know, I wanted to emphasize some of the buildings that are already down on that Poplar Park area. Again, you know, we're doing a lot up here in Peoria Heights on the top part, but I think we really all need to focus what assets you really have down in the lower part. You've already got quite a few businesses down there. You've got marinas, the Ivy Club, some homes, some apartments, some commercial down there. But, you know, we just want to bring more awareness that, you know, there's another asset that Peoria Heights has besides just up here all the time. So I just feel that the top part of Peoria Heights always gets so much attention, and below just, you know, it's kind of quiet, unfortunately. So we're just trying to bring more awareness that, you know, there's definitely some opportunities that could be had down there. Again, this is just kind of, you know, going back to Poplar Park, ice skating. It'd be great to have storefronts on there, but we all know that unfortunately the river rises a little too much and would flood that out. But the boardwalks, you know, we'd like to have some boardwalks too along El Fresco Park. So let me go to the next one. And so that really kind of, you know, Realizing the Heights, that's our webpage that we have, kind of gives updates on what we're doing. But my door is always open in my office there in the PAPS building. I always encourage every member, every public citizen to come seek me out and ask questions. We are an open book. We're not here to hide, but we've got so many things on the drawing board that we have visions, or Kim actually has the visions. And so, I mean, this just came to perfect timing, and then just getting the buy-in from Senator Kaler, Senator LaHood, and Colleen Callahan, it was just a perfect opportunity to push forward and to present this to the public and get your perception on this. So, any other questions? Yes?
Yes, sir. I'm extremely familiar with Poplar Park and El Fresco.
Okay.
Part of the problem in that area has always been not just the flooding from the east, in other words, the river itself, but the flooding that occurs from the north and the south. In other words, the wraparound on both sides, especially in places like National Marine, the Ivy Club, and Poplar Park to a certain extent.
Correct.
Are you planning on raising any of the elevation within El Fresco to the north and to the south to combat that, really, the damage that has done, all the trash that washes up, and the damage that's done by the waves and everything else from all of those railroad ties and lumber and old tree limbs and everything else, those crashing into various different things that cost a lot of money to build.
Correct. The question was, are we going to raise the north and south end of the Al Fresco Park? And that would be, yes, we would. We'd make it level with the train tracks right now, because if you've ever seen the 100-year flood, it's never even gotten close to that part of the park at all. So yes, we want to protect our asset that we're putting in there. So yes, most definitely. Anybody other questions?
You'd only elevate just al fresco. You wouldn't do that for Poplar Park, right?
No, Poplar Park we're not touching. Poplar Park is going to stay the way it is. It already has a natural sand barrier around there that's maybe a foot above level ground. If you go down there, you should look at it and you'll see the sand berm that kind of goes around there naturally. And it just lends itself to put another 6 to 8 inches of water during the wintertime, and it'd make a great ice skating ring.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I mean, I think it's a great idea. I mean, the village owns the property, right? So we would have to give him rights to that, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, what I'm looking for tonight is a consensus from the board to direct myself and administration to pursue some sort of an agreement to bring back to you, which I am personally opposed to selling any public property. I would think it would be, you can chime in here anytime, council, would be a long-term lease without clauses, protection for the village, permissible use of the property, who's going to operate the property. You want to?
Correct. Yeah, no, I think the mayor's just looking for some sense of direction from the board, and any final agreement would come back to the board for approval, but you have to take a first step. So, and as the mayor said, I think, he's opposed to selling public property, but the concept of long-term leasing where the village maintains controls, appropriate controls, works ideal for a situation or a development like this.
So I would ask all of you, if the consensus is tonight to move forward, that you would be thinking of what sorts of things you might want to see in an agreement like that, what permissible use of the property. And I hope that answered your question, Trustee Carter.
Yeah, it did.
I've had the benefit of seeing this program a few times, and it never gets less interesting. I think it's a phenomenal idea for our village and could really promote ecotourism in our area, which is something that we're trying to create. It's unbelievable, the whole structure of this that Dwayne Atherton has come up with to create this wonderful, usable space for the public in this area, and I think it's something that we should definitely continue to pursue as a board.
Yeah, we're actually, we're hiring out specialists and experts in the field to make sure we're doing it 100% correctly, and one of those is definitely the Herman brothers. They know how to grow fish, they know how to do these type of projects, so.
Also, what this will do for that entire area is really monumental. I mean, you think about the $68.5 million grant we have on Galena Road, and then improving housing and other businesses down there, which has really been a long-term goal of the Heights, so.
Yeah, I mean, so much that, the Herman's survey company is like, wow, there's so much more I can actually do with my parcel of land now, too. So they're looking at different venues and opportunities that can bring more tax dollars. So
Great.
It's a win-win.
So again, I want to thank you. This really has been in the works literally for months, but we had to see what would be feasible there. And the biggest hurdle was IDNR. IDNR has a lot of say-so, well, they have all the say-so over the permissible use of that parcel. So, we had Hassel Levine, our planning consultants, do a small area study of that corridor a long time ago, and we knew it was ready and ripe for development, both residential and commercial, because of all the assets we have there. We have the parks, we have the recreation, all the things in place to foster development, but the road is so unsafe now. So we were thinking this might be 8-10 years into the future, but when the governor announced that he was putting us in the pipeline for the capital bill funding, that really accelerated everything at a really quick pace. So I want to thank Senator Kaler and Representative Gordon, who helped us get to Springfield in a really quick fashion, and we were able to get before Colleen Callahan, who's the director of IDNR. And by the way, most of you probably know Colleen from her days here as an ag and farm reporter, and still her husband Dick and her live in the area. So she's doing a really good job as a director of IDNR. We were able to be put in front of all of the people, the right people for IDNR. They gave us the blessing just recently to move forward. Congressman LaHood has also, as you mentioned, been very helpful because there are going to be some Corps of Engineer challenges here as well. So I'm really grateful and I'm excited about this project. And as you mentioned briefly, Greg, we're working to put together a coalition of small communities on the Upper Peoria Lake where we could start out by supporting each other's festivals and work together as a Upper Peoria Lake coalition. So that could include Spring Bay, Bayview Gardens, Chillicothe, Lakin, Henry, et cetera. So that first initial meeting is coming up soon, and that'll be a public meeting. We'll encourage everyone to attend that on the board. Yeah.
October 16th.
Yeah, so, and we'll get into this more, and I hope someone or you will be able to make the neighborhood meeting down on Galena Road, because I think this will be of great interest to those people there as well. And I think you forgot to mention, but Kim would have been here tonight. He's caught in traffic in Chicago, so
yes,
you did a good job in his place. But really, if you'd give a lot of thought to the partnerships that could be available here, from Audubon to Sierra to Nature Conservancy, and on, because there are a lot of people who travel to watch eagle watching. The pelicans come through a couple of times a year. So this could really be a Midwest type of, really something that we could all be very proud of. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but the KDB group is going to be picking up all the time and the cost of the permitting and all of that. Is that?
That's correct, yes. Yeah, I've already spent.
There'll be no expense to the village other than a little bit of our time?
Correct, yep.
So if there's no objection, the administration will move forward to start developing some sort of an agreement to bring back. There will be obviously lots of public input that we'll need to get, but I would ask for all of you to please convey to Dustin some of the things you might want to see in that type of agreement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we would be at comments from the audience. If anyone wants to address the board, come forward, give your name and address, please, and if possible, keep it under 5 minutes. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Jody Summers from Peoria. I just had an update for item 10. I didn't know if I would be able to address the board at that time, or I should do it now.
Go now. If you need to come back up, answer questions, we get to that.
Okay, thank you. On our previous meeting here for the department meeting, after our proposal, we were suggested that we speak with Peoria Park District regarding the use of Grandview Drive for our pedal bus proposal. And we did that. I just wanted to update the board that we met with the planning committee on September 4th and gave them our proposal. They very much liked it. They wanted us somehow to be able to utilize the Grandview Drive area. They weren't real sure yet on how we would do that. I told them we were flexible with our routing, but more than anything, they wanted to wait to see what the decision of the board here at the village would be before they made a commitment to do that. So I just wanted to update the board that we did meet with them on September 4th, and we will meet with them again based on your decision tonight.
Thank you for that update. While you're here, sir, the board certainly knows you, but tell everyone in the audience and at home your concept and what you have in mind.
My name is Jody Summers. I'm from Peoria. My wife Diana and I have a concept to do a pedal bus here in the village, and we hope to start that next year based on ordinances that are going to be presented here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Chief.
Greg Walters, 800 East Toledo. Two things. Past Friday, we had a significant fire down at the Forest Park Apartments, and I want to take this time to publicly thank Chief Sutton and Sergeant Lotz and Officer Schweitzer for the job they did for us when we got down there. Made my job so much easier because they started the evacuation and completed the evacuation of that entire apartment building, which would have taken a lot of time for us to do. They took care of that. So I want to publicly thank you and thank them for that. They deserve a lot of credit for that. They did very well. Secondly, this evening on the docket, we have the servers up there. I would ask that you would act on it this evening and vote in favor of it so we can move forward with this project.
If you're able to say when we get to that, you'll...
Oh, I will.
Like your opinion.
Yep.
I'm very proud of everyone that's providing public safety in the village, both law, police, and fire, so give my best to your folks.
Thank you, Mary. We'll do so.
Anyone else? Public comment going once, going twice. Public comments closed. On to trustee reports. The first is Public Works. Trustee Carter.
Thank you. There's going to be some road closures, and Dave's going to come up and tell you, so about Forest Park Road Hill, I should say, being closed.
Good evening. We'll have one road closure and one lane reduction on Prospect starting next Monday. I want to let everybody know about these two. They will be on social media. They'll be on the website. There are signs posted on Forest Park Drive. The first one beginning Monday, September 23rd at 8 a.m. Illinois American Water will complete a water main upgrade in the area of North Prospect and Forest Park Drive. This will cause a closure of Forest Park Drive from Monday at 8 a.m. until approximately 8 a.m. on Wednesday, September 25th. The hill will remain closed the entire 2 days. So it will be closed completely for those 2 days, no access. The second one, the Peoria Heights Water Department will be replacing a fire hydrant at the intersection of North Prospect and Bellevue Place, starting at 8 a.m. on Monday, September 23rd. This may cause a lane reduction on Prospect in that immediate area and will detour northbound Bellevue traffic around the work zone. We hope to have this work completed before 3:30 p.m. on the same day, Monday. Please plan ahead to take alternate routes during the times mentioned. We apologize in advance for any inconvenience that this may cause. Please use caution in these and all work zones. Any questions?
Thank you, Dave.
Yep.
Mike, you have anything?
The only update I have is they did start on D.
Mike, will you come up here, please? So I want everybody at home to hear you. They probably can. I want to make sure.
But no, at D's auto body down there, we're doing a storm sewer insert of a liner. So they did start on that. Brought equipment in today, so they should be full force tomorrow. So hopefully we'll get that done. That should be the last big project we got going. So that'll help the trail and everything else, and they'll get started on their part, so, Park District, so.
Thank you.
Yep, that's about it.
Trustee Carter, anything else?
That'll do it.
Thank you very much. Next is building maintenance. Trustee Mariscal?
I have nothing.
Okay. Economic and Community Development. Trustee Kazam.
Thank you. I just want to report that this past week I attended a meeting with Steve Klein and Associates. It's a required annual meeting to review TIF District 2. All taxing bodies were invited to that meeting, so we had a representative from the Peoria Heights Library. Mr. Gorman was there, as well as Superintendent Heath, and there was absolutely no resistance from any of them, and they're very supportive of that initial TIF District 2, which is, as you all know, the one on War Memorial around Alwyn's, and also the TIF District that we're considering expanding. So there's that. And in addition, I would also just like to thank the Peoria Riverfront Museum. This past Saturday, we had a free day for all of Peoria Heights. I went down and took advantage of it. It was absolutely phenomenal. There are two wonderful exhibits down there. One is the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 landing on the moon, and everyone should see it. It's amazing. And the second is a really special exhibit that has been shared with us from the Whitney Museum of Modern Art in New York City. They almost never do this. They never let their art leave New York City, and it is now at the Peoria Riverfront Museum. So I know we had a lot of residents go down and visit. I actually checked the numbers when I was there, but there's still time. It will be there for 2 months.
And I know you were there, we didn't bump into each other, but Trustee Weisenberg was there, and I was there. It was a really nice time, and so.
They did a beautiful job.
Yeah. You could probably do a little bit better job than I did earlier. Would you just elaborate a little bit more about the potential with the coalition of, I know you've been working on that, of.
Oh, for the the Riverview Coalition. So in conjunction with what Greg Berkland was describing, we have actually a meeting set up for October 16th. We'll be inviting all the trustees and others as well to attend a meeting to explain some of our initiatives and spearheading of the Riverfront Coalition, which includes all of the municipalities from the McCluggage Bridge to Lakin on either side of the river. And our idea for this is multifaceted. One is to work as a collective to encourage ecotourism in the area. As the mayor was describing, we have tremendous bird watching with the pelicans flying through here. Actually, I saw them the other day when I was taking a walk. Eagle sightings, we have kayaking, all this type of thing. But parallel to that, we also we feel that we have better strength as a group in helping one another with other issues that we have in our communities. So we feel like if we're working as a collaborative, we will be able to help one another and have a stronger voice and have more strength. So you'll hear more about that coming up. Actually, I meet on September 25th with them, and then there's a public meeting, not public meeting, but an invitation meeting on October 16th at the Ivy Club at 5:30. And
then we'll be traveling to Springfield in October to meet with the director who oversees housing grants for the state of Illinois with DCO. We're going to be asking for a $500,000 housing grant, and hopefully we're going to be, it's a competitive process, but we're confident we'll go with a good proposal. Before we go on to administration, Greg, I'm going to call you back up. You told me about something that's going on today. I'd like you to tell everyone about the murals. I wanted you to do it in your presentation. I forgot to ask you.
So Kim doesn't know about this one. So I was working with Barb at Exhibit A, and I wanted to have the Peoria Heights art team put together a collage of murals for me to put on the wall at the Save-A-Lot. So if you ever notice that wall that is in the back of Save-A-Lot that's kind of ugly and nasty looking, so we're painting that all white, and I'm going to commission probably three artists to do murals, and we're going to put murals on that back wall, and I'm going to give each winner $125 for their efforts, and then probably donate, not probably, I will donate $500 to the art class there at Peoria Heights too. So just trying to freshen things up and have the kids actually give their perspective of Peoria Heights and you know, how they grew up here, and you know, I think it's kind of a fun thing. So going to be starting that probably next week, as long as the weather holds out. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Gett, Administration and Personnel.
Thank you, Mayor. I have been asked on behalf of the personnel up here at the Village Hall and Police Department and Public Works to say thank you to Mr. Greg Berkland for the Subway meal that you supplied to them. It was really appreciative, and I thought it was pretty generous of you. So thank you very much. That's all I have.
Is that it, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Weisenberg, Fire.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to report.
Police, Trustee DeVore?
I just wanted to report that Chief Sutton did extend an invite to all of us if we wanted to do a ride along with any of the officers to kind of see how things work. So that is still an open invitation if anyone would like to do that. And then the Peoria Heights Police Department Benevolent Association is having their annual fundraiser at Poor Brothers on Saturday, September 28th, starting at 1 p.m. They will have bounce houses, souvenirs, 50-50 dunk tanks, lots of fun things, family-friendly event. And the association does a lot of good things. I know they have done some scholarships and things like that, so it's good for our community to support that.
Thank you. Anything on?
Mayor, I just have one thing. I wanted to update the board briefly regarding the code enforcement issue. I think you all received a letter about a code enforcement issue on Samuel a couple weeks ago. I just wanted to let you know that they are 100% compliant as of today's date. So they were very efficient on getting on the issues after they received a crime prevention notice. So to get you back up to date regarding that letter, they are compliant. So.
All right, thank you. We would be at old business. The first is approval of ordinance 2019-1604, an ordinance amending Title IV of the Village Code of the Village of Peoria Heights for the purpose of adding a new Chapter 8, providing for licensing and regulation of pedal buses operating within the village. Trustee Kazam, I'd ask for a motion to approve this.
I make a motion to approve this ordinance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, go ahead, Beth.
So we all heard this evening from Jody Summers. He presented this thought to the board of, I don't remember if it was last week or the week before because I've missed a meeting, but I think it was really met with a lot of enthusiasm. Council has provided us with an ordinance. We've all had the opportunity to look over that, and I think it's really exciting for the Heights. We don't have this in Peoria. This happens in other big cities and small cities, and it's innovative, and I think could be a wonderful opportunity.
If I may, Mayor, at everybody's desk, I gave you an updated version, if you will, of the ordinance. Mr. Summers had asked for a few changes from that first draft that was circulated, and the version that is just stapled by itself shows those changes.
Will you walk us through those?
I'd be happy to. On the second page in 4-8-3B, that's something I thought of. We should probably put a license fee in the ordinance. Mr. Summers asked that we prorate the fee because he would like to start in March before our fiscal year starts in May. So we would certainly prorate the fee for that small fraction of a year, probably just roll it into the first full year. So that's something that we need to think about at least. Then on the third page, under what would be section 4-8-3D, Mr. Summers asked that at least for a period of time, that there only be one license available so that there was not another competing pedal bus. I'm not sure how everybody feels about that. I put it in here at his request. So that's another discussion point. And there's a minor change on the fourth page in subparagraph E. He pointed out that his pedal bus is 84 inches wide, not 75. I don't find that to be a real material change. On the following page. Let's see, section 484E. Nope. Now I lost where I'm at.
487.
Oh, G, so it's under 485. 487G, sorry, and it would help if this had page numbering in it. On the issue of sound system on the pedal bus, Mr. Summers pointed out that, you know, there will be, and he can answer any questions I think that you have about this, there will be a sound system, but it's not going to be something that's loud or obnoxious. So the way I addressed that was to say that the sound was limited to something that's not audible more than 20 feet away from the pedal bus. So if you can't hear it from 20 feet, I don't think that it would cause any disturbances. And then last, on the very final page, before the signatures, are the routes. I thought that it was appropriate for us to incorporate the routes. It's North Prospect, East Paris, North Boulevard, East Lake, and then Grandview Drive, subject to the Park District approval. So those were the changes that were requested. I wanted to get that worked in here, and we can discuss any of those, or you can ask any questions of Mr.
That was
Summers.
what was in the packet, but should we have a motion to include these amendments to the agreement?
I think so, at least a discussion about that, yes.
So trustee Kazam, I'd ask that the original motion be amended to include the changes.
Okay, I make a motion to amend the original, to include these changes, pardon me.
Is there a second to that? A second. So then on the amendment, anyone have any questions on the inclusions?
What was the fee? Did we talk about a fee? Like what?
I don't think we ever talked about it, so that's kind of up to the board.
Okay.
This is not something that we can, it doesn't fit neatly in our other fees
We
that
have
we
nothing
have.
to use as an
It's sort of unique, so I don't know what the board feels about that.
Have we looked into other cities that have this to see what their fees are for permitting?
I have not. I could check and see what Champaign charges. That would be the only other municipality.
Have you guys looked into what other cities charge for this?
Just a little bit, they're all over the board, and it depends on...
Come on up, Jody, if you would, please.
In my research, what the fees are all over the board. They basically start at 500 and go up, and a lot of it depends on the size of the community. You know, a Nashville is going to be charging them a lot more because it's a bigger community than, say, the Elm City bus, which is in New Haven, Connecticut, and it's a lot smaller area. So we left that blank, and because we just figured in good faith that we could work out something that was manageable. So the business isn't getting gouged, but we're still contributing to the coffers, even in the smallest way.
I think the sample ordinance you brought to us in our first meeting, I think it was $1,000, if I remember right, so.
That does sound.
What is the cost to ride the pedal bus? I think we talked about that, but I don't remember.
The costs vary from day. What we're basically looking at is a $275 cost on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. They go up on Friday and Saturdays to $300 a ride, and then Sundays we're looking at a $250. And we have also investigated some things that we'd like to do, some progressive dinners, and maybe speak with the restaurateurs here in town, and just do a whole lot. There's some brunches or things like that too. So at that point, costs will go up because we'll be inflicting the initial cost that will go to the restaurants.
Just to clarify that cost is for the rental of the entire vehicle or per person?
That is for the entire vehicle.
Okay.
So the cost is divided up per person by the person booking the ride.
Okay. Is this fee something we have to determine like this evening, or is it something?
Well, I would prefer to get it all done
Okay.
right
Yeah, I
the
kind of
first
think so.
time. If
Okay.
you're not ready, I know, I'd rather wait if you're not ready.
No, I think I mean, in my opinion, we can do it. I just didn't know if we could write language in there saying a fee but maybe that's not a good idea.
Well,
Yeah, I think
one
the
thing
fee
I'd think
needs
to
to be
keep
set
in
by
mind is that I would encourage you, I don't get a vote on this unless there's a tie, but I would encourage you to think about maybe we start low, see how it works out, and then we can always increase that fee. Is that correct, Council?
Absolutely.
That's just
Fee
my
can
own.
be changed at any time.
Okay.
Well, and I think too on that, no more than one license, should we not have a time frame in that?
I was thinking
I agree.
In that,
Yeah.
instead of just leaving it open?
And I had mentioned that in our meetings that, you know, we'd like to have at least 2 or 3 years that before it got expanded, because we're putting in a pretty major investment to this.
Yeah. I just think that we should include a time frame in there, don't you?
Do you have a time frame in mind, trustee?
Well, I'm on board with him if you think 2 to 3 years. I mean, I can't see that we'd ever have like 5 or 6 pedal buses going through here, but, you know, even one more could be, you know, a lot of competition for you at trying to get this started, so.
Absolutely.
I'm good with 2 to 3 years, if anybody.
The longer, the better.
If this were to become very successful, do you have thoughts of having more than one pedal car?
We have. I mean, sure, every entrepreneur wants to grow their business. We have had thoughts, and if it came down to that where we could put them in other areas, I mean, if it got down to the point where we, like speaking here, where we developed it right, where we developed the lower part of Peoria Heights, and we could figure out a way to do it down there, then absolutely, yes.
If we were to put in a requirement or a restriction on the license count, could we also stipulate that their business has to stay in Peoria Heights for that license count? If the business goes so well, and then he opens a shop in Peoria,
Well, he would have to get a license from Peoria.
But what Brandon's saying is if we're going to agree to not rent, like lease
Not
out
have
to
any
anybody else,
competition.
then can they make a commitment to not go to any other municipality?
I'd ask, I think that's a good point. So if we gave him 5 years, you're saying they couldn't open up in another community within those, council, will you address that?
uniqueness to Peoria.
I think that could work. We could say, so long as the license holder operates only in the village, there would only be one license granted by the village
For X amount of time.
for whatever period we determine.
They would have an exclusive license here.
Correct.
As long as they didn't open up elsewhere. And I don't think we want to restrict them very far. I mean,
No.
you're talking just in central
Peoria,
Illinois. And-
yeah.
Yeah, within a
Correct.
5.
Say, within a 25-mile radius or
Right.
something.
Would that be acceptable?
Very much. I have no desire to go to Peoria.
Just going back to our first question, Jody or Mr. Summers, can you refresh my memory? Because I think this number changed from the first time, the initial
Oh, yeah, we
time I
talked
spoke
about
with
that.
you. How many tours do you anticipate having annually?
Okay, what we're hoping to do is run from approximately March through probably end of September, first part of October. We're hoping to have approximately 10 rides per week. So if you're talking a 6-month period, 40 rides per month, 240 rides would be ultimate. I mean, if I got that kind of business going on, I'd be an extremely happy camper. But that's an ultimate goal. Whether reality is that we're only doing four tours a week, and it takes us to build the business, then so that'd be it.
So do we have to vote on each one of the items? Or can we, what if we
Well,
don't?
I asked for, I'd hate to amend the amendment, but I think maybe we can get there through consensus if the maker of the motion of the amendment and the seconder of the motion to amend, we get a consensus to agree what that amendment looks like. Is that make sense? Mark?
Yes, that would be acceptable.
Because we haven't discussed the license fee yet.
So go ahead. The license, your concern is that it's an exclusive?
Yeah, so, I mean, as long as we went with the exclusive license with the exclusive business, I'm okay with that.
Does the maker of the motion and trustee Kazam, or is
I'm
that?
sorry, well, I was
Is that
trying to do
okay
the
with
math.
you? Is the
I didn't
maker
hear
of
the question, I apologize.
that there be an exclusive licensing to this party as long as they did not operate anywhere else within central Illinois?
Absolutely, I think that's fair.
Trustees, can I ask for a time limit to be set as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Specifically, I need to know, do you want 2 years or 3 years?
I say 3.
3, I think is,
Okay.
I agree with Brandon. I think 3 is.
License for 3 years, so long as not operating within 25 miles, council?
Correct.
Is everyone in
Village
agreement with
Hall.
that?
Yes.
Okay, you have the floor, trustee Weisenberg. Continue if you'd like.
The license fee, I say set at 500.
Yeah, we can always grow it. Let's not make it too hard on them. We want them to be successful, so 500
I
sounds
believe
reasonable.
500 is also the fee we charge solicitors, so remember.
So would we revisit that annually?
Yes,
Okay.
you could if you chose to.
I think we
Say
should.
that in the ordinance, 500 permit reviewed annually? Is that necessary?
Ordinances could be reviewed anytime, but
Yeah, we can review it at any time. We don't need to say in the ordinance that it's always open for review.
So did I hear the number 500? Is that in agreement with everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm done.
All right, anyone else? Let's vote on the motion as amended. We'll come back to the main motion to approve.
Okay,
Madam Clerk?
Just for clarification, the motion that you're currently voting on is to make the following amendments. The attorney's language as amended in the documents you were provided. An
Yes.
exclusive license to Mr. Summers for 3 years, so long as he does not operate within 25 miles of Village Hall, another pedal bus business, and a permit fee of $500.
That is correct.
All right, Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gatt?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
All right.
All right, and thank you all for getting us through that.
Thank you very much, we appreciate it.
We do have to vote on,
On the
that
main
was,
motion. So we're back to the main motion as amended. Any further discussion on the main motion as amended?
that was to make all of the amendments. Now we have to vote on the ordinance itself with those amendments.
Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gatt?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
All right, congratulations, folks. Look forward to seeing your buses out soon.
But we want the first
I
ride.
know, I was like, I think we get first dibs.
That should have been on the amendment, it wasn't, so sorry. Next, Mike, you'll be on that bus then, I know. Next is the approval of ordinance 2019-1605, an ordinance adopting certain regulations and public records by reference as criteria for the issuance of construction, reconstruction, alteration, and installation permits within the Village of Peoria Heights. Trustee Gatt.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2019-1605.
In a second, please?
Second.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, we've talked about this already before. We haven't, this is about building electrical and life safety codes, which we haven't upgraded since 2012, and Tony Griffin, right, and Dick Young, they've looked it over and they've recommended that we go, this is what we do with it. They have agreed to omit the requirement for residential sprinkler systems. It has, this has been in our file for 30 days for public review. Is there anything you wanted to add to it, Attorney?
No, you did a good job. It's just really, in simple terms, updating all of our building codes from 2006 and 2009 versions up to the most recent 2017, 18, and in one case, 19 versions.
Thank you.
Are these just standard codes?
They are. We use the International Residential Code. The International Code Commission publishes a lot of these. Some of them are state, like the plumbing code is a state code. So yeah, they're fairly standard across the state, actually across the country.
Anyone else?
And Tony Griffin, he's what, in the top 20 in the nation about this life safety codes, his qualifications on this. So I would say, you know, good recommendation there. So I say we vote on it. If anybody else has anything to add.
Okay, if you're ready for the vote, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gatt?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Next, under old business, approval of a purchase of the Peoria Heights Fire Department server in the amount of $6,309. Trustee Weisenberg?
Yeah, I move to seek approval of the purchase of the Peoria Heights Fire Department server.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, go ahead, Trustee Weisenberg.
I know we've all discussed this in length. I think I've spoken with pretty much every one of you regarding the police department, the fire department server. It is a piece of equipment they use for their state mandated reporting. I tried to reach out to Chief Walters this past week to answer some additional questions I had. Unfortunately, I was unable to get a hold of him. And I've spoke with, like I said, all of you. I sent a few emails to Jeff as well. So unless you guys have questions.
Questions for Trustee Weisenberg?
Question.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go on here from your email and us discussing it. So right now, they have a software that's gonna be obsolete, that they're paying $600
Correct.
annually for, right?
Correct, so.
And that they're gonna have to replace that, no matter if they don't do anything else, they're gonna have to replace that. That's not included in this
Correct.
$6,300,
So
right?
some background information. So
Okay.
I attempted to reach out to
Chief Walters.
Chief Walters.
Will you come up, please? Go ahead, Trustee Weisenberg.
And when that failed, I reached out to ESO, who's the vendor of the Firehouse software. I went over the modules that we use in that software, and she had advised me that that product is no longer being sold. At this point in time, they still do support it, but they have a more secure version called Firehouse Enterprise that replaces their Firehouse standard software, and they gave us some pricing for that software as well. They do not guarantee its compatibility with newer versions of Windows going forward, and they're only planning on doing minor updates to the Firehouse standard going forward. So that deviates a little bit from the actual server purchase, but it was some information I got back from the vendor.
Thanks for doing the homework on that.
And she did mention that the new software, either the enterprise version or the cloud version, is more secure, compatible, and efficient. So that was,
And that's the 1900.
the 1925
That's the cloud, yeah.
is the cloud version. And I think you had asked last time, Trustee Carter, about our liability with the data. And if it was something the board wanted to do, the Firehouse Cloud would eliminate our liability. ESO would house the data, they'd house the backups. The Village of Peoria Heights would not handle the data security for that product if we chose at some point to go with the Firehouse Cloud product. I know that was some concern of trustees.
Could you also speak to, I think in your our emails exchange, the privacy aspect of it?
Correct.
Would you talk about that a little bit further?
Yeah, so one of the concerns that was brought up last time was the security of that data. We didn't really have, I know Mr. Carlson here managed the server, but it didn't fall under Pearl, which I believe that was a question that was brought up last time. I believe the cost would be minimal to bring it under Pearl, which we could do with either the standard version of that software or the enterprise if we chose to stay with the self-hosted product. The cloud product would eliminate our liability completely because all we would do is log into their website and do our reporting to the state.
So is the cloud the 1900, a year, never mind.
Yeah.
That's the answer to my question.
And that would be on top of the server price, obviously, correct?
So,
Yeah.
well, I tried to reach out to Walters to ask him these questions, but if we went with the cloud version, I was curious on what the necessity of the server was. But I wasn't able to get those questions answered.
So say that again. Was it sure if we went with the cloud?
Because the cloud...
That we may not need a new server.
Right, so the cloud takes the reporting function off the server and into...
And keeps it in the cloud.
Keeps it in the cloud.
Okay.
They manage the security, they manage the backups. All our volunteers have to do is just log in and do their reporting.
So by going with that, we kind of eliminate the $6,000 expense,
That was
and
my
it becomes
question.
less with more security and less liability on the village?
Can we speak to this?
Less security.
I'll get you, Chief. Hold on.
More security and less liability, yes, but I wasn't able to run this idea past them
Okay.
before this meeting.
Are you finished, Trustee Weismer?
I am.
Go ahead, Chief.
I'll have Dalton talk on this.
Okay, to speak to all of this, we have looked into this as well because we are aware that the Firehouse Standard version has not been supported for at least 2 iterations of companies that they've switched through. They've gone from a company called ACS to Xerox, which we're all familiar with, now to ESO. They've been slowly trying to phase out the Firehouse Standard software. We are aware of that. We've looked into costs of replacing that. As of right now, we've still looked at keeping the enterprise version locally in-house. We're not opposed to going cloud, but the cost has been less for us to just upgrade and stay in-house, as we don't have to pay that extra cost and we keep our own backups. Speaking to the terms of if we did go cloud, do we still need the server purchase? Firehouse is only one thing we do. We still have investigation data that we hold that's not necessarily input into Firehouse. We still have personnel data that we hold. We still have information on EMS reports that we have to hold that's not integrated into Firehouse. We still have a lot of other aspects that we need this server for, not just for the Firehouse software.
So what does this firehouse software do then?
This is a reporting software that we use to do our reports for every response we have. We are mandated by the state to send in reports regarding fire calls, EMS calls, accidents with injuries. So we use the firehouse. The software allows us to do that report and send it in to them.
Okay, so when you are doing EMS calls on the firehouse
Yes.
data then? Okay, so.
Well, you can answer that. It's through Firehouse, but it's able to be separated and sent to IDPH and also to Peoria or
Okay,
EMS.
so, but the firehouse software doesn't have the capability for you to do further tracking? Like, you can't do more reporting based on one investigations? Because, I mean, I'm not a fireman, I understand that, but if you're investigating a fire, why would you not be reporting that like that on the state and on the website? Because you're telling me in one hand that you're only doing part of the reporting here and you need all this other reporting. I'm just trying to understand why those aren't together.
As far as the investigations are concerned, we have separate files that we have that. We've got those locked away. They've got our photographs, all that information there, any type of voice recordings, anything of that nature we put there. I know Firehouse has the capabilities of uploading photographs, but video and audio, I don't believe they can do that. And when we do our investigations, if we have to, we will audio tape somebody at that point. So that's all part of what we have in our server that we're using right now and that we need to have going forth. Did that answer your question?
That's better, yeah.
And I can give you a little bit more information if you'd allow me, Trustee DeVore. So what you originally asked is, does this program have the capability to allow us to do investigations to it? It does. The state does not require us to submit investigation data unless it is an arson. And then at that point, we would work alongside of the Peoria Heights Police Department, the State Fire Marshal's Office, the Illinois State Police Crime Lab, things of that nature. It allows us to complete a basic investigation report, basically outlining the results of our investigation. But as Chief Walters stated, our video files, audio files, photographs, any witness statements, anything of that nature that we take, is not something that's stored in there. It's stored in a separate file.
Okay. What file though? Where's that stored?
That's stored on our server. That's stored here local.
Stored on the server, but
Yes.
it is on the system.
Yes.
We also take into our apparatus maintenance records are in there as well. Our air pack records, personnel records, as he mentioned, are all in there, and that's not in Firehouse. So and there's a lot of records.
You're really saying that you need both of these things?
Well, it looks eventually like we're going to have to go to the enterprise with Firehouse since and we've known that. It's kind of something that we're kind of working through. We knew we were eventually going to have to do that, whether it was in the cloud or whether it was a version that we could have on the server. It's just when we were going to have to. Because what we have now, it's one of those things, why fix something that's working? And it's working for us now, and they're going to let us know as it starts to completely go out. Then we have to, reach out for that.
Okay.
So, I mean, right now, all we're asking for now is a server so we can get the files that we have transferred over to it and be operating smoothly. And it's going to take a little bit of time to do that.
Okay,
So where's the server being stored at? Where is it saved at? Who's got?
Their firehouse, I think. Didn't you speak to that
It's
last
right
time?
below you.
Right.
No, that's not what I'm asking.
Okay, sorry.
Because my concern is I didn't realize that, like, the whole village, excluding the fire, from what I learned, is backed up from Pearl, or backed up. Pearl does all that. So you get the server, who's doing the backup? Where's the backup at? Who has access to that backup?
All those backups are stored here in-house with the plan to eventually upgrade that, and they will be stored at our firehouse below the hill. So they are stored on village property in our control.
I guess I don't, I'm sorry, Jeff. Honestly, I don't have a problem with the server. I have a huge problem why we can't have Pearl back it up. It doesn't cost us anything any more than what we do right now. It's the whole village is underneath one thing. You could do whatever you're doing now, but they also
And that's all something we can talk about in the future.
I got a question too.
Something to
You
look
say
at.
that eventually you're going to have to do this. I mean, is it going to cost any more? I mean, is it maybe better just go ahead and let's get, instead of waiting for it to come down the road and you have to do it, I'm thinking if it's not going to cost any more, I don't know if anybody's following what I'm going, might as well get on board with it now, my opinion. I mean, if you're going to have to do it eventually, we can do it without a big
You talking the firehouse software? You talking?
Well, you're talking about you had to increase in what Trustee Weisenberg was talking about. If we can go that route and save the village money, and in the long run, you're going to have to do it anyhow. I'm just thinking that later down the road, it might cost more. It's all. I mean, I want all our emergency services to be taken care of, but I'm just thinking, prices don't really go down, especially with technology, and it could go up again. I mean,
As far as the firehouse software is concerned, let us do some homework on that. We can come back with you on that information, on what the costs are going to be on that, and maybe that's something we can work into. I know our request tonight is specifically the purchase of the server, so we can start moving forward and getting things transferred over and in an operational status. The conversation regarding the liability and who's taking care of it is something that we can talk about in the future, because I don't have the answers for all of that right now. The answer I have right now, or what I have right now, is the need. The need, I mean, it's a proactive approach. What we don't want is we don't want the one we have right now crashing or not being able to get the parts. If we get the new server now and we start moving that forward, then the conversations regarding firehouse can begin. If liability issues, something, we can look at that.
Those are all policy decisions we could put in place.
Exactly, that we could do in the future. It's not something that I feel that we have to jump on right now.
Okay.
If we get the hardware, we're moving in the right direction.
I agree.
And that's what I'm after.
Any other questions or comments? I'm going to let you finish up, Trustee Weisberg.
I do have another question.
Yes, go ahead.
So, real quickly, just to clarify, the only state-required functions happen through the firehouse software. Because there's 4 modules. You have the training module, the EMS module, the apparatus module, and I forget what the 4th one is.
There's an ARSA module with it.
Yeah, and they also mentioned that
But there's a cost per module.
Right.
And we have not purchased all those modules.
So the EMS module, do we use that?
Yes.
What is Nemesis?
NIMS.
It's no longer Nemesis
No,
compliant.
That is Nemesis.
No, what you're talking about is NEMSIS compliance. The current version, I believe, is NEMSIS 3.1. As of right now, as a non-transporting agency, being that we don't have an ambulance, we have been instructed by the Illinois Department of Public Health and by the Peoria Area EMS Office, we are not required to be NEMSIS 3.1 compliant at this point. As we upgrade the software, obviously the upgraded software, when we do have to do that, will be compliant. But as of right now, we have been told we do not need to be compliant with that. There is no look in the future for us to be compliant with that. The state's more focused on transporting agencies, not so much non-transport. Their focus on us is, we want to know what you did and when you did it, not necessarily have it coded in the exact correct way that we can send it to Medicare and get paid.
So the only state-required functions, Nemesis, Firehouse handles.
As of right now, yes.
Trustee Mariscal, go.
Sorry. I guess my question is for Chief Sutton. So with the police department and your server and all the information and the reports and the body cams and all of that you guys have, do you have even a larger server than that? Are you operating on the same size server that they're asking for?
Correct. Our server will be the same size as their request, yes.
So is it possible that why do you guys need such a large server?
We're looking towards the future with this. Sorry, go ahead, Chief.
There are certain files we cannot get rid of. I mean, there are certain files you can purge to keep space in that server, but there are certain ones that, by law, we cannot get rid of. Personnel files, so on and so forth. We have to have that.
Right,
That
which
takes
I'm
up space.
sure the police department as well, correct?
That's true. I think what Chief's statement regarding purging certain, I'll use the police department for example. So this server might last, I think this server would probably last the fire department 20 years maybe, where this would last the police department probably 10 because of the amount of data that we save and transfer, the amount of video daily, not to mention reports. So the lifespan of this server will be much shorter even though they're the same size.
So is there a smaller server that can be purchased?
Yeah, when we asked Pearl for a quote, they did offer us a 4 and an 8 terabyte, if that's correct.
Yeah.
I don't know the terminology, that's why we use Pearl for everything. But yeah, they did give us some options, and it was financially better for us to go with the bigger one because it wasn't that much more money, which we brought to the board, so.
But we went to Pearl for pricing for the system that was already spec'd at the size, at the comparable size.
Correct.
We didn't ask for a smaller server. We just went to, correct me if I'm wrong, we just went to Pearl to get competitive pricing, not necessarily to look for a server smaller in capacity.
Trustee Mariscal, allow me to clarify something real quick, if I may. Chief Sutton, if you could answer this for me, what is the storage space on the server you're purchasing?
It's 8 terabyte, but I think we talked about last meeting, it's 4 and 4. It's a mirrored system.
No, it's not.
If I remember right, but again, we use Pearl for all this. We don't get involved. We have a maintenance agreement with Pearl. They do all of our transferring, they do all of our monitoring, and that's done monthly. So as far as any technical questions, I'd have to refer to Ryan for Pearl because they handle all of that for us.
Right, I understand. What I was looking at there, if your current storage in the server you're purchasing is a total of 8 terabytes, the fire department's request isn't approaching that at all. Our total storage space on the server is going to be 1.2 terabytes as we move forward. The additional space that we're requesting is to store backups, which is where our 4 terabyte drives come in. That is strictly for backup storage, that it does not account in for storage space. So the storage we're looking at for our server is actually exponentially less than the police department's requested.
Okay, but if you didn't have that extra 4 terabyte for backup and you let Pearl do the backup, you're not only saving money, but then Pearl's also assuming the liability for any issues with that data, correct?
I don't have that information. We'd have to speak with Pearl.
Typically, that's how it works.
Well, I do know, speaking with Pearl, they would offer that because I did speak with Ryan. We have a maintenance agreement with Pearl. The Village Hall is under that agreement. The police department's been under that agreement for 20 years. They could incorporate the fire as well. It wouldn't be an issue. But again, that would be something that I would have to have Ryan speak with you and get what your needs are and to make sure that, we're under the right agreement if we don't need to extend that or anything.
But just an FYI, if at some point we do go with the cloud version of the software, that would alleviate a lot of the liability and the risk, because all of that data, which probably contains a lot of PHI, would be housed with ESO and not us.
Doesn't Pearl do that too? I mean, if it's saved backed up by Pearl, wouldn't they do the same thing as the cloud?
They won't touch it.
Yes.
It wouldn't be the cloud. It would be a self-hosted version of it where the data is on premise.
Right, but with cloud, you're saying that we have we wouldn't have the liability, but if Pearl did the backup, we wouldn't have any liability either.
Right. Well, in a sense, counsel, depending on if there was a breach and it was determined that, Pearl made a mistake or something, they would have insurances that covered that liability.
Right.
Whereas now,
it would be on them, not on the
But if
village.
someone breached the server that we have and they just had the backup, then we would still be liable. Where if it was in the cloud and there was a data breach on their software, they would assume all liability, we have none.
we would have no liability.
Okay, do it.
We would just log in, essentially. We would just log in.
Get the server.
So do we have to approve this exactly as it reads?
An amendment would be in order. I mean, we've got a motion on the floor to approve this in a second.
I know in the past you guys had said you did not want to work with Pearl. Is this something you're willing to negotiate on? Or
It's something we will talk about in the future. Right now, that's not part of the plan,
With all
no.
due respect, though, I can't approve this and say in the future, we're gonna have a conversation on how we're gonna make a change. If in regards we go to the cloud and then you don't need as big of a
Well,
server.
at this particular, I don't know what Pearl offers me. I'm not like the chief. I've not sat down and talked with Ryan. I don't know what they have to offer. Neither does Dalton. What I do know is I need a new server. I don't know what Pearl has to offer me to make it worth my while. Okay, I really don't, and I can find that out.
I have to agree with trustee DeVore here, though. It's difficult for us to make a decision if we don't have that information, and I really feel that we should have that information in order to make a decision on this issue.
If I can piggyback on what Chief Walters said, we understand the concern, you're looking forward to if we're having Pearl do our backups or if we're going to have Pearl take over something. That doesn't alleviate the need for us to have this server now. Say we have to offload something to the cloud in the future because that's the way that they're moving. That doesn't alleviate the fact that we are still going to need local storage space for personnel files, for apparatus records, for investigations, for patient care reports that are archived that we still have to keep and we can't get rid of ever. This is information I've just got.
Sorry, Sarah. Just go.
I'm understanding that, but what I'm saying is if that is the route you're gonna go, then maybe we could purchase something even smaller, which would be a little more cost-effective for your department.
$200. It's going to make a $200 difference if we went smaller. And that's, I guess the thing that gets me is this was a budgeted item. We've got the money set aside for it in our budget for this. And fortunately, through working with different vendors, stuff like that, we were able to get the price down to $6,300. I think we've done a good job explaining to you folks our need. We've also explained to you what it is we need. All we're asking is that you approve this so we can move forward with this project. And I will gladly speak with whoever you want to have me speak with regarding the liability issue, whether it's Pearl or whatever. But I need to see movement forward.
Well, I think that's pretty much what we want, is for you to agree to talk to Pearl and be open to coming aboard and joining the village and getting this taken care of. I mean, I have no problem with you getting the server because you need it now, but you gotta be a little flexible.
No, I am flexible.
I would like to be under one umbrella. I mean, I think it'd be a good thing. So that's my only thing is I would like you to be open to joining the rest of the group here. So
you got me on tape.
Anyone else? Anything conclusion, Trustee Weisenberg? No. So the motion still is to approve this. I haven't heard any amendments or any other motions, so
wait a minute, I'm kind of lost here. So, the server, I understand that they need a server. I'm looking for the future too. If we're gonna purchase it, now would be the time to purchase it. We have the money in the budget. Now would be the time to purchase a bigger server. But I definitely am opposed of it not being backed up either by the cloud or by Pearl under one umbrella. It's got to be either or. I'm scared that we're doing the backup ourselves and we're taking it to here or there, whatever. I understand that too. I mean, we do that as a business. We back up, somebody takes it somewhere. I mean, I understand that part, but if I approve this server tonight, I want it on the next budget. I would like to have it on the next meeting about where we're going to do cloud or Pearl do the backup.
I agree.
I'm not sure we have the authority to say that. I mean,
why don't we have the authority?
Or do we?
Counselor?
The motion is to approve this. That's what the motion.
Right now,
I think you've heard the chief's commitment to working out concerns the board may have, but
let's just ask the question.
Can we make an amendment to the motion to have to include that?
yes,
So,
as long as we all understand the amendment.
okay.
So make that amendment.
So I make a motion to amend the motion that it would have to include the either Pearl Companies or Firehouse.
ESO Cloud.
ESO Cloud manages the backup of the data to eliminate liability on the village.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Council, I don't see any trouble with this, do you?
no.
Chief Walters, any?
Clerk Turner needs
Hold
to
on
have.
a second. Okay, Trustee DeVore, you want to make an amendment that Pearl Company or ESO would be responsible for cloud backup or for backups in general?
all backup.
For backups, okay.
I would I don't know, maybe I'm saying it incorrectly, but like, Pearl companies transfer the data for the police department from one server to the next. I feel like that's important as well. Like I feel like someone else needs to be assuming the liability from transferring the data from one server to the next and to maintaining all of the backups with that.
Okay, so for transferring the data and maintaining the backups.
I thought I heard a second. Did someone offer something?
And then, yeah, I heard multiple seconds, so trustee Weisenberg?
Yeah.
Or the cloud, I mean, I would, Pearl or the cloud.
I think that's what ESO is, the firehouse cloud.
The question is that Pearl would be responsible for transferring the data from the old server to the new server. And I'm not sure we discussed that with them when they were up here. So I just want to make sure that we're
Chief,
all
you
on the
might-
same page.
I don't see where that's necessary.
What was that?
I don't see where
He
that-
doesn't want that, they want to transfer the data themselves.
Yeah, we have the ability ourselves. I would feel far more comfortable that way.
Because I'm sorry, I don't know Ryan. I don't know these people. I know that man there. I know his ability and his capability. I'm very comfortable with him doing that.
Well, how about he works with Ryan?
We'll cross that bridge when we get there, I guess.
I just want to make a comment about Pearl, Chief. I mean, we've worked with Pearl for 20 years.
I know you have. I'm not knocking them.
And I can tell you that the amount of data the police department goes through daily.
I know.
Video. We're wired into the state's attorney's office, to the Peoria County Jail. We've not had one breach in the 20 years I've been chief, and we've been using, and they're very competent. So, I mean, I want to make that comment. I understand you don't know them, but I do, or I wouldn't have recommended them to oversee the fire as well if they weren't.
Understand my reluctance to this is we have taken care of ourselves for 12 years. Since we got this, we've had no issues, other than the fact hard drive issue, or not hard drive, but software changes, stuff of that nature. And we've done upgrades to the system ourselves. That man back here did it for us. So, I mean, please understand why I'm reluctant to do this, to turn this over, because I've got a lot of respect for him. And I think if we get him to work with Ryan or whoever it is, we can probably move forward. Okay?
All right, I appreciate that.
Well, we would definitely have him.
Pardon me?
We would definitely have him involved.
Oh, I would want him,
But I would think that any person that we would choose, whether it's the cloud or Pearl, I mean, they would be responsible.
And they have insurance to cover them.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not that I'm saying I don't trust what you guys are doing, but like the fraud and like hacking of things is completely different now than it was 12 years ago. So
we're living in that world right now,
that's what I'm saying to you. So
and we're still free.
Well, we're lucky. We're lucky
Well,
to be free. I mean, we are lucky.
Or we're-
Nothing has happened.
Or we're well-maintained. How's that?
I stand by my motion that
With
they
that,
have
I'm
to
going to step
transfer.
away.
Yes, the current amendment does state that
That's my
Pearl
motion,
or
my amendment.
ESS has to transfer, and that was the motion that was seconded. So that would be the motion that the board would vote on.
All right.
Take a vote.
I think we all understand the amendment. Madam Clerk, call the roll on the amendment.
Wait,
This is just on the amendment.
This is just on the
that
amendment.
Pearl does the transferring.
It's the actual amendment as stated was that the approval of the purchase has the amendment that the transfer of data has to be done by Pearl or ESO Cloud, and they are also to be held responsible and maintaining backups. So one or the other.
That was an agreement we had.
That was the amendment that was made.
That was the amendment that we made. And
Because the original, I mean, it was my understanding when I was walking back there that we were going to transfer it ourselves. That way we can get the ball rolling, make the movements so to make sure that everything works. Once it's in there and it's working, we can move that and then go from there. I don't foresee a problem doing that.
You're talking about, let me see if I get.
It's the
let me
physical
see.
movement.
Hang on. Let's all take a breath. We're all getting uptight. There's no reason to get uptight. I know that you're controlling of your data, which I totally understand that. But what I think you're saying is, get the server. Once you have it on the server, then get Pearl or the cloud, whoever it's going to be.
Whatever it comes to
Go
be.
in there and grab the data.
That wasn't the amendment that Ms.
But I'm saying, hang on a
I'd have to
minute.
change my
Hang on a second. I think that's what you're saying,
That's exactly what I'm
correct?
saying.
Which, I mean, okay, go ahead. I don't have a problem with that, but.
Okay, then
It's gonna do, I mean, I would think that we would do it quickly. It ain't gonna be like a month or whatever, it's gonna be quickly. In my opinion. Can we put that in there?
Do you want to change?
So I
your
can change
amendment?
my amendment to being that they can upload it, but it has to be maintained by ESO or by Pearl companies.
Right.
By a certain date.
By, like immediately.
Yeah, like, we're not waiting. Once they get it on the server, we're going to the next step. Can we do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, trustee DeVore, you want to amend your motion?
I'm sorry.
Trustee Weisenberg, you were the second. Do you agree to the amendment?
I didn't second that. Did I?
You did, but it's a.
Jeff did.
Jeff.
Okay, I got multiple, so I'll.
Well, there's about
think
3
the chief
people
wants to say
that,
All right, so let me fix trustee Gott.
My only question would be, and I don't know the answer to this, I wish I did, by them doing that transfer of data, does that eliminate any warranty that Pearl would cover because they did not transfer the data? That would be my question.
But they would have one, I don't know that either, but I would think that if they're gonna back up the server, then it's whatever is on the server at that time.
Well, I understand that,
That
but
they would be
since they...
responsible for.
Right, but that was my question.
My question is if we don't vote on this tonight, can it be voted on outside of a regular meeting? If we want to get the information that everybody's asking for and then vote, I'm not trying to hold them off a whole nother month.
Or we could have a special
Can it be
meeting.
voted on?
We could have a special meeting, or, there's nothing that prevents us, we don't do it customarily, but there's nothing that prevents us from voting on things at a departmental meeting. It's not a habit we want to get into, but it is
Yeah.
possible.
Rather
I say
than
we
calling
just
a
go ahead
special
and
meeting.
vote
There's an
this
action
through.
item for the very next meeting. It could be added to the next meeting, which is September 24th, for an action item.
Right,
If
so
that's
why
what the
can't we
board
just get the answers we're looking for, put it back on the next one for next Tuesday, and vote on it then, once we have all the rest of the information, and Brandon has had a chance to talk to the chief, and we can talk to Pearl, or he can talk to Pearl, or just so we know what we're voting on.
I do think more discussion is needed on how we want this to look going forward. Do we want to stay with the self-hosted? Do we want to go with the cloud version? Because it does change the way things look.
Well, I'd be more than happy to schedule a meeting with Chief Walters, Pearl Tex, myself, Trustee Weisenberg, to kind of go over this to make sure that everybody's on the same page. But what is the board's? My question is transferring of data to make sure that they would still cover everything under the agreement and the contract we have, because I don't know if they would, because they do everything at the police department and Village Hall. So I guess that'd be my question, but I could put them together and go over what their needs are and look at the options and bring that back to the board.
I can't speak for Pearl, but I would assume if they were going to assume liability for the security, they would be the ones that would want to implement that security.
Correct.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to amend this agreement. Madam Clerk, call the roll. Unless there's some other motion, but I'd like to get through this sometime tonight.
All right, so the current amendment is to approve the purchase with the condition that Pearl or ESO Firehouse Cloud Software would be responsible for doing backups as soon as possible. Trustee Carter.
Oh, 1 second, Stephanie.
Yes.
Sorry. So this is just a vote on the amendment, not
This
the
is
purchase.
just to approve that amendment to the motion to make the purchase. Trustee Carter.
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal.
Did that also include the transfer?
No, it did not include the transfer.
Which is what I thought we were just talking about.
We would, but
Yeah, but I
it
changed
would.
it to not include the transfer.
But how can you vote on
At
that
their
if we
objection.
don't know if they're going to cover it, if they transfer it instead of Pearl?
Well, I think regardless, we want them to do that, and then if the next motion or a next amendment is to defer this to the next week, then we can talk about that in between now and then.
Yeah, we have to vote on this portion of it.
Because regardless, whether they transfer themselves or have someone else transfer it, we still want them to do this. Am I understanding that correctly?
Trustee Mariscal, if you want the amendment to include a provision to have something that it doesn't currently have, you could either vote nay because you don't agree with it, or you can vote aye to move on to the next vote.
And then if you wanted that amendment, you could.
Right now, we're voting. If you want to vote against it, you can make an amendment again to the main motion, but let's vote, please.
So trustee Carter was an aye. Trustee Mariscal?
Nay.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
No.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
Okay, so the amendment passes. We're back to the main motion as amended. If anyone wanted to make another motion to defer this, that's in order. I'm going to get ready to call the question on the motion as amended.
So when you say defer it to next meeting?
Well, that
Or what
would
are
be
you
up to the
saying?
maker of the motion.
In your motion, you can establish at what point you want it to be brought back to the board, what date.
Oh, next meeting. My motion is next meeting.
Okay.
All right, I have a motion to defer this until the next meeting of the village board, which would be a week from tonight. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, trustee Mariscal, I'll note you were second.
All right, discussion on the deferral.
So I would like it deferred until I've had a chance to speak with Chief Walters. The last week and a half, he has not returned my calls or emails. So I don't want to set a date for next meeting and me not be able to get a hold of him before that next meeting.
I understand, trustee Weisberg. That's the motion we're dealing with right now, till next Tuesday. Is that correct?
Yes. So everybody has to get together before next Tuesday and get what we're going to do.
So I believe I heard a second to that. Was that right?
Trustee Mariscal seconded the motion.
Any other discussion? Call the
Trustee
question.
Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
All right. Give me a minute to find out where we're at here. Okay. We would be at new business. The next is approval of a BDD beautification grant application by Sherman's Real Estate LLC. Trustee Kazam, I'd ask for a motion to approve this.
I make a motion to approve this.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Paul, welcome, finally. Come up, tell us about your project, if you would. And, you know, a lot of times, we talked about the Taste of the Heights tonight. A lot of times, the bars and the restaurants get a lot of the credit. We're so happy to have you here. You have a lot of people working here in your warehouse and trucking. We're very proud of your business, so go
Thank
right
you. Yeah, we're happy to, 4 years ago, we were happy to make the Heights our home for our distribution center and corporate offices for all of our locations. It's been a great facility for us. 2 years ago, we decided to open a very small retail facility out of the back of that building. Had a little bit of extra space. Original idea was really only to just move some of our returns or maybe scratch and dent kind of items out of there. Very quickly found the traffic there was a lot more than, we needed a lot more product than we had. The very low-cost nature of the back of the warehouse allowed us to bring in just a lot of value items, whether it's inexpensive things from vendors or scratch and dents and that kind of thing. And so we just keep building that business. Really, it's developed into a huge win for both us and the village. It's brought a ton of, retail sales and sales tax dollars in, and it hasn't actually affected our other business. So it's just been plus business for us, kind of new value-added type of things. So at this point, we're kind of out of space there, and we're trying to, and the facility isn't that great, 50-year-old bad floors, so we're investing in the facility itself as far as polishing the floors, getting those nicer, putting some racks up to be able to stack and put more merchandise in there to keep the sales increasing, keep the word of mouth going, keep traffic increasing. So the sign request is, that you got that huge building, and, you got to go all the way around back, so it's not real obvious that there's any retail there, and you can't just put a small sign on that 90-foot tall building. So what we're requesting is the grant so that we can put a large sign on the front of the building designated there's a clearance center around back.
Thank you.
Trustee Kazam, anything else you'd like to fill in before we take questions?
I would just like to add that this has already been reviewed and approved by the BDD.
Thank you. Questions, trustees?
Is there a price on that?
It's a $15,000 sign, and the grant request is for $10,000.
Correct.
All right. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Thank you, Mr. Sherman, for being here. Next is approval of BDD beautification grant application by MK Enterprise 1 LLC. Trustee Kazam,
I make a motion to approve this.
do I have a second?
Second.
Go ahead, Trustee Kazam. I don't think I see the Flemings here tonight, so
So MK Enterprises is the 4,500 building. This is a request for $10,000 grant. It looks like they will be spending $90,000 to improve, I think, complete the third floor of outdoor rooftop area. And they're actually adding safety railings to this as well. And this has also been reviewed and approved by BDD, pardon me.
Questions? If you haven't had the opportunity to go down to the 12 bar and actually walk out on the roof, it's a really magnificent view of downtown Peoria Heights. So I'm really excited that they're moving forward with this project.
Yeah, it's a great addition to the Heights.
Madam Clerk?
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Next, approval of ordinance 2019-1606, an ordinance imposing municipal cannabis retailers' occupation tax on recreational cannabis retail dispensaries in the village of Peoria Heights. Trustee Gett?
I move to approve ordinance 2019-1606.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Go ahead, Trustee Gett.
This is basically just getting the ordinance into, to tax the sale of cannabis within the Heights if it goes through. There is a deadline of October 1st that we have to get this on the books. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to do it if we pass it through. Is that about summing it up there? or-
That's accurate. This is a recommendation from the Illinois Municipal League based not on the current language of the state recreational cannabis statute, but what the Municipal League anticipates will be done in the veto session. The original statute only allowed municipalities to adopt the tax effective next year on September 1st. And that's a departure from any other statute. The statutory scheme for municipal taxes has always been the taxes can take effect on the first day of any calendar quarter, January 1, April 1, July 1, October 1. And as long as the new tax ordinance is delivered to the Department of Revenue at least before the end of the previous quarter. So you got to get it to them at least 3 months in advance. That, on the normal scheme, that would put a January 1 tax having a deadline to the Department of Revenue of September 30th or October 1st. So the Municipal League is confident that the legislature is going to change the current statute to allow us to tax on January 1, but if they do that and we have not adopted an ordinance and sent it to the Department of Revenue, we would miss the boat. Now, the real important thing here is this does not obligate the village to actually allow the sale of cannabis. We're just saying that to the extent there are sales that are permitted in the village, we're going to tax them, and we're going to tax them at the 3% rate effective January 1.
Thank you, and a lot of people thought we might be getting the cart ahead of the horse, but we're simply just...
It certainly seems that way, and there's, but again, it's all a function of the Department of Revenue taxation calendar.
And we will have a full conversation on this as we move forward. This just...
Correct.
If the board decides and the community decides to permit this, then we are able to tax it.
Correct.
Thank you. Any discussion on this?
And the 3% is a cap, we can't go any higher, right?
Can't go any higher. 0.25% increments up to 3.
So the 3% would be on top of, assuming it's in a business district, it would be 4%. On top of all the other taxes.
On top of the state's tax.
And on top of the state. It's taxed just like any other retail sale, but the municipality can enact an additional specific tax.
So would that make it significantly more expensive than, say, Peoria?
Well, it could, I think they're dealing with this issue as we speak. I know one city council person on the floor the other night talked about competitiveness, so.
That was my next question. Do we want to go the full 3?
I think other East Peoria went someone went the full 3. Everybody's going.
Most municipalities have gone with the 3%. The only reference I've heard to not going 3% was the one council member in Peoria. I don't know the extent to which that caught wind and has other backing, but most municipalities are adopting.
Well, I don't think 3%, if Peoria decides to go 2%, I don't think they're really going to care about that 1% increase.
That would be 2% above us.
If we did 3 and they did 2, I think we stay with the 3%. If we're going to do it, let's do it.
Council, I know we're going to conduct a piece of business next week. Is time sensitive absolutely tonight, or?
We could adopt this ordinance next week and still get it to the Department of Revenue on time.
Is that something that give you better comfort, Trustee Weisenberg?
I'm okay.
You're okay voting on it?
Let me say this, the rate of the tax can be changed, effective the first of any quarter. So if we adopted the 3% tax tonight, and we later learned that the city of Peoria went with 2%, and we want to go with 2%, then starting on April 1 of 2020, the tax would go from 3 to 2.
Thank you, Council.
So this is just setting the framework.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
All right, thank you all. Next is approval of Chuck's Auto Sales Quarterly Special Use Permit. Trustee Gett?
I make a motion to approve Chuck's Auto Sales Special Use Permit.
Do I have a second? Okay. Any background on this, Jeff, you want to give? Or?
Well, the old Chuck's, he's got a great history with the Heights. He has to be monitored quarterly to keep himself in, he keeps him in line. And this time around, he's passed. There's been times where we've gone and we used to do it yearly, go in, he'd get everything cleaned up. And then when we'd leave, and he'd get his permit, everything would go back to status quo. So doing this quarterly has been a good move. It's been necessary, and that's all I gotta say. I think it's a good thing to, he's legal now, so let's pass him.
Any questions? Madam Clerk?
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Last piece of business under new business is a discussion item. It's, we're only going to discuss this, but it's an ordinance that would provide for the vacation of Brockway Avenue. About quite a few months ago, some homeowners on Brockway, the Wigintons, Matt and Christine Wigginton, approached me about vacating that parcel, and that was prompted in part because we vacated some land on Hunter's Trace. So council, we're not going to vote on this tonight. Mr. Fuller, are you here to talk about this?
I'm here on behalf of my clients, but I'm...
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
You know, we understand it. They've been taking care of the property.
Sorry, Christine, I didn't see you back there.
I've made some visual aids for everyone.
Thank you.
My computer's a little too short here.
Okay, thank you. Well, we can share.
Thank you. Yep. And then if,
I think so. Flip it around, just to show us. Yes, we do have that. Is that all right?
yeah, maybe we'll turn it a little bit. This direction, so they can, I'm going to be motioning to the trustees.
Okay, we'll go this way, just
Okay, great.
Will this work?
Yep, thank you.
That's the berries house.
Okay, hello, I'm Christine Wigginton. I live at 1 Brockway Avenue, as my husband and my 3-year-old daughter. My husband's unfortunately away on business tonight. So we've lived in 1 Brockway Avenue for coming up on 2 years now. And I kind of just want to first start out by just discussing the interesting situation that is Brockway Avenue. So going to kind of refer to this map here. On the map, not sure how I can, here we go. Okay, so on the map, we have Grandview Drive, which is here, and then we have East Lake Avenue. So this East Lake Avenue is a little bit different than, there's another East Lake Avenue that's a through street. This is a dead end. Now this East Lake Avenue is a private drive. There's a big sign posted right out front, it says private drive. It ends in a cul-de-sac, it's kind of off the map here. Now this East Lake Avenue is maintained by the residents of this neighborhood, including our house. So that means that we all contribute and pay for the snow removal, and when it needs to be repaved, we all contribute to that. So now, off of this private drive, East Lake Avenue, is Brockway Avenue. So the Brockway Avenue is here. So Brockway Avenue is a street that abruptly terminates here at our property line. This is our house, 1 Brockway Avenue. Now, the only other house that has any really access from Brockway Avenue is, these are the Cruzens here. This is all, I think it's parcel 1 in the ordinance. So their address is an East Lake Avenue address, but their driveway is accessed from the beginning of Brockway Avenue. Otherwise, Brockway Avenue does not have any other, none of these houses here have any access, their driveways do not connect to Brockway Avenue. And also, it's kind of off the map here. This is all of our driveway here, and that ends abruptly here. It's right off the map, but it doesn't connect. So Brockway Avenue is the only access we have to our house. Now, why does this matter? So, I'm a physician, and I leave the house every day at 6:30 or 7 to get to work. I also work every 5th weekend. I also, in the middle of the night, can get called in to go tend to emergencies. So for snow removal, this is important. When we first moved in, we paid, every time it snowed, we paid someone to plow Brockway Avenue, the public street, so we could leave our house. Last year, my husband bought a snow blower, and every single morning when it snows, he gets up at 6 in the morning, plows this public street so I can go to work. Same thing when I have to go in the middle of the night, every weekend when I actually have to go in even earlier than 6:30 or 7 a.m. So we're already, and also actually all of the former residents of 1 Brockway Avenue have done the same thing. They've always maintained this road. So same thing about paving this road. Some prior owners of the house that we live in, the Fosters, are the ones that actually paved Brockway Avenue, the public street. So now Brockway Avenue is developing some cracks. Some tufts of grass are growing through. In a few years, it's going to need to be repaved. Now, I don't really think it's reasonable of me to ask the City of Peoria Heights to, every time it snows, come down Brockway Avenue to plow it essentially for our house. In fact, actually, the plows would have to go through a private drive that's being plowed by someone else that we're paying to access this public street. I also don't think it's reasonable for me to come back in a few years to say, hey, can you pave this road that will basically benefit our house? I also really don't feel like you all want the hassle, and neither do I. So we're basically, with this ordinance, we're proposing that we buy this street so that we can maintain it as we have been. Now, some of the neighbors have voiced some concerns. I'd like to address some of those. The neighbor that lives in parcel 2 here is concerned about, because she puts her trash receptacle at the very beginning of Brockway Avenue, right here, and is concerned that if we purchase Brockway Avenue, she wouldn't have any access to the trash receptacle. Now, of course, she would. We put our trash receptacles in Brockway Avenue as well, as do the Cruzens right here. So everyone needs to be able to access their trash and have their trash removed, so that is not a problem. Now, a few of the neighbors in parcels 3, 4, and 5 have voiced concerns because a few times a year they have their landscapers come down Brockway Avenue Avenue to access the backs of their houses for landscaping work. So I've included for the trustees some images that we've taken. Those are pictures taken from standing on Brockway Avenue of the backyards. Just kind of emphasizes all of these houses have their driveways connect to, or all of these in parcel 3, 4, and 5. Their driveways connect to Grandview Drive. They don't have any driveways that connect to Brockway Avenue. And so that kind of shows what the area looks like. And of course, we want our neighbors to have beautiful yards. Our house faces directly faces these yards. We want them to have beautiful yards, and that would not be a problem ever having landscapers come down and take care of their yards. Now, one thing I wanted to mention in this ordinance, my husband and I did have a kind of an issue with, is it mentioned that that this would give the neighbors, basically, in these houses at, what was it? Parcel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, access in perpetuity to Brockway Avenue. Now, of course, I mean, the Cruzens, which live in parcel 1, they obviously need access because that's how they access their driveway. So they always will need access to the beginning of Brockway Avenue. Now, there's an issue with the parcels 3, 4, and 5 is that technically these houses are Grandview Drive residents. They're not actually part of the neighborhood. So if we really want to be technical here, they don't actually have access to the private drive right now. So in order to access Brockway Avenue, they would have to be kind of technically trespassing through East Lake Avenue. Like I mentioned, of course, we want our neighbors to be able to maintain their yard. So this, as guests of our house, they can bypass that trespassing and they would have access to Brockway Avenue to take care of their lawns. Now, another issue is, since we're proposing basically to pay $5,000, we're going to be paying property taxes on this area. We're already maintaining it. We're going to continue to maintain it. We're trying to basically make this our driveway. So I don't really see that it's kind of fair for us to be paying all the money and doing all the work and having others to have access 24/7 whenever they want to this driveway. The main reason that I feel this way is that I have a 3-year-old daughter. I'll soon have another daughter in about a month. I mean, my 3-year-old daughter's favorite activity is pretty much drawing with chalk in the driveway. Her other favorite activity is riding her scooter or bike in the driveway. I don't really feel comfortable having anybody else have access to our driveway pretty much 24/7. And also, a number of the neighbors, including the Cruzens kids, love to play in this, in our driveway and the Brockway Avenue, because it is pretty much a kind of safe, secluded place from cars, and I'd like to keep it that way. I think that pretty much covers it. Is there any questions?
I don't see a problem with adjusting the ordinance to you naming the Cruzens and the other, and eliminating those others out, because if they're not, they're doing the work. I mean, I'm more than happy to work with them.
She did a great job summarizing that. I agree completely with her assessment, and that is, first of all, the issue of vacation. This is a street that should have been vacated 60 or 70 years ago when Lake was vacated. It's a city street, a village street, that has no access to any other village street on either end. I've never seen that in my years of practice. I'm not sure that under a legal analysis it really even qualifies as a village street anymore, so I don't think we really have any choice but to vacate. The question really is the condition that I had put in the ordinance of access for the neighbors, and that was really just an accommodation for the neighbors had made that request. When I look at the easement that is the access drive, what used to be Lake Avenue is now a private access drive, only the Cruzens and the 4307 Grandview actually have easement rights on Lake. So she's exactly right. The 3 parcels that front on Grandview that are on the top of that exhibit really should not be included in the access rights over Brockway, so I completely agree with her.
And
So I would recommend that
So we can
change.
rewrite that.
Yeah, I would, again, this is not an action item tonight, it's really just a discussion item, but
We'd like to approve this next week if,
that would be fine. I'll make the change, and we can have it as an action item on next week's agenda.
So the parcels, I'm pretty familiar with this property. So the parcels at the top that are not photographed here, they currently do not have driveways that go onto Brockway.
No.
They are Grandview Drive addresses, and
No.
their driveways have egress and ingress from
No.
Grandview Drive. So by not granting them access in perpetuity would not be changing really their...
Exactly. You're
The way
not
things
changing their
function.
current legal rights
Okay.
at all. As Ms. Wigginton says, they'll allow them to
Yeah,
use
of course.
it
Yeah.
at their request. The question is, do we grant them a legal right to do so? And I think it is appropriate not to grant that legal right to them, and let them, like any neighbor who needs to go on the other side of your fence on your neighbor's property, you ask them and they let you do it. So I have every faith that
Yeah.
the cooperation will prevail.
We're very friendly with our...
And the village would still have access to water
Of course.
mains underneath?
Yep, the
Okay.
easements are reserved in the ordinance, so any public utilities that are under there, the village will have access to.
So when you speak of legal access, currently all Heights residents have legal access to Brockway Avenue, correct?
Actually, that's not true. The only way to get there is to trespass. That's why I said it should have been vacated a long time ago. When Lake got vacated, Brockway should have been vacated as part of vacating Lake.
anyone else?
Okay, can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Okay, because it's a village street that has no access to any other public street, the only way to get to Brockway, unless you are the Wiggintons or the Cruzens or Mrs. McNear, who have easement rights on Lake, the only way to get there is to trespass. There's only 3 people in the village that have legal right to get to Brockway. One of them standing before you, the other 2 are the neighbors that are going to maintain that legal right.
Because we gave up the rights to East Lake, right?
Exactly. We vacated it, made it a private drive. We don't have to maintain it anymore.
Just forgot about this road here, that's all.
All this ordinance really does is square with what actually has happened.
Yeah.
They just want want to make it legally their ownership, so.
So it's basically housekeeping, correct?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, I think you have your direction. Thanks, Christine. Just a little sidebar note about the Wiggintons. Christine took a job with Unity Point. You relocated here from out of state. You love the Heights. Your husband Matt's on the ZBA, and
Yep.
I saw him volunteering at the Taste of the Heights. So,
Yeah.
we have you pretty active, so thanks for being here.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Next is the treasurer's report. I would ask for a motion to approve, or go ahead, Madam Clerk. if you-
There's no vote on that?
No, it's just, so we can answer.
Okay, at the end of August, in the village-owned accounts, there was $2,500,596.64. At the end of August, in the water-controlled accounts, there was $963,925.77.
All right, I would ask for a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Just a moment, please. Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Trustee Gett,
I move to adjourn.
do we have a second?
Second.
I do. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.